Well, hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I have to tell you guys that I have not been this excited for a live stream in quite some time.
Not
I am
making me feel special.
I say it to everyone, but not really, because I just think that what King Randall is doing is incredible. So King Randall is a young man who has started a program for boys in his hometown, which is relatively you'll be able to tell more, but a really poor community where opportunities are not necessarily available as readily as they can be in other places. And he's just started this wonderful program to teach young men to life skills that they can use, like working on cars, building houses, things like that, getting them out, getting them doing stuff with their hands, and most importantly, really inspiring them to be good, productive young men. And I am just so incredibly inspired by his story. And what we're really going to be talking about today is he's got a wonderful project where he is actually building a boarding school for this program. I have to tell you, it just warmed my heart when I saw it, and we're gonna talk a lot about it, answer all your guys' questions. But welcome, King Randall.
Well, thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Well, why don't we just start off by just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up doing this.
Absolutely. Well, I'm King Randall, 21 years old. I'm the founder of the Expo Boys program here in Albany, Georgia. We teach young men ages 11 to 17 different skill trades, how to work on cars, work on houses, such as changing oil, changing brakes, changing toilets, ceiling fans, sheetrock, you name it, a variety of things. We also teach firearms training for those young men in our communities because we want to kind of demystify the gun for the young men so that way they don't try to go sample on their own. But we do a variety of different things. Also doing a book club because a lot of the young men that we come into contact with here in Albany cannot read. Our literacy rates are very low. So we started a book club teaching boys how to read. Then I also am the only rehab program in Albany, Georgia, for juvenile offenders. So I started actually taking the children into my home. I just started actually taking custody of them too, in my home, just trying to love on them and mold them and teach them and grow them, making sure they're in school, making sure they're staying off of probation, making sure they're staying out of jail. And so far, our program has a 0% recidivism rate, meaning every child that's come to our program from jail has never been back. So that's one thing I love to tout. But that's kind of an idea of who we are. And so we've been doing this for about 2 years out of my home. I did summer camps here. I've had kids sleeping on bunk beds in my living room, etc. But we've come from eating noodles and hot pockets sometime and some sandwiches all the way to having our own school location now. So now it's just time to get the work started.
Well, okay, we there's so much to unpack there, but first of all, like you're 21 years old.
Yes, I began this at 19.
How did you get started?
Well, for the most part, I used to, people knew me for like coming around to the different community meetings and kind of, talking a little radical about the things we should be trying to do for our communities. Because I'm not a fan of complaining about the systems that we're in. I'm just a fan of trying to create our own systems. If we hate the school system or we don't like the school system, I'm not going to keep begging them to fix things for me. We're just going to create our own school system. Even a bank or a hospital, you name it. I want to do those things for our communities. If we claim that the system is racist or whatever, then why we keep asking the same system to do something for us? That makes absolutely no sense to me. So I definitely decided we should start our own school. So I saw the need for the children, in our communities, seeing, the crime rate amongst the boys 17 to 25, etc. Looking at what they need, and just about 98% of the boys I deal with don't have any fathers. That's an issue, and that's just going to lead them into a bad life more often than not. So I just decided, to get out here, in the trenches with them, instead of complaining about what they should be doing and telling them something's wrong with the way they're trying to live. And Andre 3000 said something so smooth. He said, "How are you going to tell a young man selling's a sin when you're not offering new ways to win?" So my biggest thing is trying to offer those new ways to win for young men in our communities.
Now, who inspired you down this path? Because I mean, this is not something that your average 21-year-old is doing. What inspired you to, look at life in this way and take this proactive step?
Reading a lot of books. Definitely having a father in my life. Growing up, my stepfather was huge on teaching, how to survive in the wilderness and growing my own food and taking care of your community, etc. My stepfather was very good for that. So growing up, I was never the normal kid. Even in high school, I wore a suit to school every day with a briefcase. In 11th and 12th grade, all of my classmates could vouch for me. Even in my sixth grade yearbook, I have a shirt and tie on. I was just that different kid. But I always knew I was supposed to do something, to change the community where I live. Here in Albany, this is one of the cities that Dr. King actually failed in. And if most people look at all of my social media handles, they all say new emerging king because there's a new king here, and we're definitely going to try to change our communities. So he was a big, influence on me, researching Dr. King and the things that he did and what he tried to do for our community. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that he made was not training any replacements. And that's what I'm trying to do now, train replacements for our community. So that way we can have new politicians and new judges and new lawyers and new doctors, etc., that we created in our own communities, and showing them new ways to win.
Well, one of the things you mentioned was that you wore a suit to high school, and I have to tell you, one of my absolute
Mhm.
favorite pictures is this one right here with your
Yeah.
young men all dressed up in their matching suits. I just
Hmm.
love it. I just think it's like this is what people should be doing. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, the boys love the suits. What's interesting is we did get a lot of flack about those suits because people were saying that we were trying to teach the boys how to act like white people, and suits are they were saying they're a white supremacist thing or whatever like that. I'm just like, a black tailor made these suits, right? Like I'm just like, it's people just say things. I'm just like, it is not like we're wearing a suit every day. Most of the days you'll see the guys we have on our Extra Boys t-shirts and maybe our Extra Boys joggers and our shoes. We'll wear something like that, but we'll probably wear a suit for different occasions, just like normal people do. We don't wear suits every day, like people were trying to make it seem like we were doing. But for the most part, the boys love the suits. They got a few billboards up here in the city of Albany, so they love that. But yeah, the suits are one of we call it our dress uniform, and every military has a dress uniform. So definitely got to get dressy sometime.
Well, and I think too, like when you dress up like that, when you just look really nice and put
You
together,
feel
that
good.
contributes to your self-esteem. You feel good.
Hmm.
You feel like a new
Absolutely.
person.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
I love it. I love it. Well, what are some of the things that you do with the young men?
Absolutely. Well, are you saying like during the daytime, like when they're just around
Yeah.
about the house? For the
Yeah.
most, yeah, for the most part, sometimes we're playing video games, we're reading books. We'll go out on the town, go get something to eat. That's like a little everyday stuff, but of course, we still do our workshops. Teaching them how to change brakes and change oil and things like that. Plus, those everyday life conversations we get to have sometimes simply because they're just around. But I tell people all the time, a lot of the children that stay with me, I really don't have to do a lot of teaching because they start emulating me as they're around. And most children, they're trying to be like the man around them. A lot of boys, they're trying to be like the man around them. So for me, it's constantly trying to monitor what I'm doing, how I'm talking, how I'm walking, etc. Because the boys are watching me constantly. Plus, they ask a lot of questions. We play basketball a lot. We do a lot of competition type stuff, but we always try to make sure we understand that we're a team. But yeah, for the most part, on an everyday basis, I mean, we're here just doing regular guy stuff for the most part, but also doing a lot of teaching as well. Plus, a lot of discipline. A lot of people wouldn't recognize me when they see me discipline the kids because I'm very strict to a certain extent. They know what I expect from them. But for the most part, I'm kind of like the big brother or some of them for a father figure.
Hmm. Now, when you first started the program a couple years ago, did people tell
Mhm.
you this is never going to work? What are you doing?
No, I remember the first thing I did was I did an oil change workshop. That was like the first thing I
Mhm.
did. I taught 20 young men how to change oil in a car. We did it at my uncle's house. I just made a quick flyer, on Canva, and I put it out on Facebook. We sent it to the churches and stuff, and 20 kids showed up, and we taught them all how to change oil on a car. I got on certificates, and the parents were calling saying how happy the kids were because a lot of those kids never get any type of award or anything. So for them to get certificates to be able to put on the wall and things like that, that was beautiful. But seeing the kids want to learn and get out of their conditions, that's why I knew it was going to happen. So that summer came, and I knew I wanted to do something for the children. And of course, I didn't have a building or anywhere to go. I was like, well, I'm just gonna have to do it out of my house. So I made a flyer. I said everything that I'd be offering, and parents believed in what I was saying I was gonna do, and they dropped their kids off every day from 8 to 5, and believed in what I was doing. 19-year-old kid, but they saw how their kids were changing and saw the progress that they were making at home, and they definitely are still here today.
So you mentioned that the parents saw the progress these kids were making at home. What did that look like from before working with you to after?
Well, a lot of the parents, most teenage boys have that little, clean up your room, talking back, that little stuff like that. There's a lot of things that I do in regards to discipline that it seems really nitpicky, but it helps them at home, such as not allowing them to make any mistakes, and also policing when they're talking back. I make them say something back to me every time I speak to them, like yes sir, no sir, etc., without any back talk. And it's constant like that. Literally after every word I say, you have to say something back. But a lot of the parents were saying, when they getting home now, they're developing habits. Like, well, when I tell them to go wash the dishes now, he just responding and go do it. I'm like, yeah, because they already know I don't allow them to make any mistakes. If I tell you something one time and it gets messed up that time, everybody gets in trouble. And I make sure they all understand they have to work as a team. So if one of their brothers, talks back or says something back or doesn't respond, everybody goes outside and has to get it. Everybody. So that kind of forces the boys to police each other too, because they don't want to get everybody in trouble anymore, because then they have to have conversations when I'm not around or physical altercations when I'm not around. So they kind of have to police each other. That's one of the beautiful things about it. I have to create a brotherhood because they have this individualism that they build at regular school. No kind of team effort with anything. It's all me, myself, and I. And so I try to make sure that everything they do is together. Like even my little brother, his friends, if his friends have bad grades, my brother knows he gets in trouble for his friends having bad grades. Like even my brother used to be overweight, very overweight. And I, made him lose that weight. But one of his friends was still overweight while he hadn't lost his weight. I'm like, well, why is your friend still overweight? And he told you he wants to lose weight. So why are you not trying to help him, but you call him your friend? These are things, I try to make sure, I police with them. You got to help each other, all the time, picking on each other, etc. Of course you do like little guy things, but sometimes you got to help each other. You can't just, pick on each other all the time. But there's little small things I do, around the house, being with them. It bears witness at home. So those are the kind of changes, they start making at home. It's just developing better habits than they already had.
Now, so you mentioned like they get disciplined as a group. So what does that look
Mhm.
like? What is your version of discipline?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of physical training, a lot of physical training in 5 minute bursts. So the biggest thing for me is kind of doing annoying exercises. Not really necessarily the pain, is annoying. So I'll make them run to a tree, and if everybody didn't respond, everybody got to come back. And then if you didn't come back and everybody didn't say nothing, then everybody go back. Oh, you didn't give me enough energy. You go back. And then I just make them like little stupid stuff. Go pick up the logs. All right, now run the logs around the house. Okay, he didn't say nothing, go back. It's just like little stuff like that. High knees, mountain climbers, all of that stuff. Plus making them scream the definition of discipline. All of that stuff. Making them scream their different vocabulary words I taught them. Different things like that. And it gets annoying, especially when it's hot or when it's really cold. Just a lot of things. Plus, I'll destroy their room really bad. So like one time the boys did something and I made them go outside and I kind of destroyed their room. And I went outside and I was like, I don't know what happened to y'all's room, but you might want to go fix that. Then I'll give them a time limit to go fix it. I'll probably give them like 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And they, of course, they can't get it in time. So they have to go back outside, get destroyed again, then come back in the house and try to redo the room again. Like it's just a lot of annoying things in regards to discipline. I don't really have to touch them at all. just a lot of annoying things with the discipline, kind of like the things we did when I was in the Marine Corps. Just a lot of annoying stuff.
Oh, okay. So you were in the Marine Corps.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me about that a little bit. So
Oh
you're
yeah.
still very young.
Yep, I went to the Marines like immediately out of high school. Just got out. I
Mhm.
went immediately out of high school. Interesting stuff. I was supply MOS 3051. But yeah, it was an interesting time in the Marines. I definitely feel like it was a good experience for me. I think I needed to go in regards to how I'm able to help the children now, especially in regards to discipline. It's foolproof. But I definitely don't feel like it was for me. I think my mind was a little bit too developed for
Mhm.
that area. I don't know. But yeah, it was a great experience going. I think I just went for what I needed to go for, and I got what I needed from there, and I was able to bring it back to my community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very big fan of like everything happens for a reason, and it sounds like you
Absolutely,
got what you needed to do, and I think you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. This is
absolutely,
how
I
you're
love it.
supposed to be serving. Yeah, it's
I love
wonderful.
it. Thank
So
you.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is I find it so thrilling when people find what their path is so
Hmm.
early on in life, because I think everyone has a path. Everyone has a way that they can serve the world in some way. And it might be a big way or a small way, but most
Right.
people never find that path. Do you feel like you're on your path?
Yeah, absolutely. I've known my purpose ever since I was about 3 years old. And what's interesting is my grandmother never let me forget what I told her my purpose was. So as a child, I was riding on the road with my grandmother one day, and I remember this vividly. I remember this conversation like it was yesterday. I remember I had a gray car seat. She had just picked me up for daycare. I think it was Dr. King Day that day. And she had an old 1999 Lexus at the time. It was 2003. And I remember the stop sign we stopped at. I remember the street and everything. So when we stopped at the stop sign, I asked her, did she know how it was to have butterflies in her stomach, like something was about to happen? And she was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, I know how that is. And I told her that I was here to finish what Dr. King started. And then she kind of like got all puzzled because my grandma's very spiritual. She's been a preacher, a pastor like my whole life. So when I told her that, that was she went crazy with it. She was like, what? She's like, what do you even know about a Dr. King or anything like that? That's all I remember from that conversation. Literally, I remember like it was yesterday. But going through life, my grandmother never let me forget what I told her. I used to be really rebellious and stuff. And going through middle school and high school, I'm just like, Grandma, I was a kid. We probably watched Dr. King video that day. And yeah, that's probably, I was just saying something. She's like, no, I know what you told me you were here to do. Don't you forget that. So I still got boot camp letters when I was in boot camp. She was like, I don't care about you going to the Marines. You know what you're here to do. Like I got plenty of letters of her saying the same thing over and over again. So I finally gave in when I was in Atlanta one time, and I decided to start doing a little studying on Dr. King. I'm like, well, what was he supposed to finish or whatever? It's like, I don't get it. What didn't he finish? So I did a lot of research. I mean, I found old FBI files, phone calls. I mean, I just was digging. And so I decided to go to the Dr. King Memorial that year. I went to the Dr. King Memorial, and I was walking through the museum. And you go to this room where the carriage is that carried his casket through the city. And in that room, they have newspaper articles all over the walls in the room. It's all headlines from when he was killed. And one headline stuck out to me from the Pittsburgh Courier, April 20th, 1968. And it said, will a new king emerge? And that's, of course, where I get all of my social media handles from, New Emerging King, because I know what I'm here to do. And ever since I decided to start walking in that purpose, God's been making a way.
Well, and that's what I find too, is when people find what their purpose is, it's easy. It happens.
Absolutely.
Whereas like when you're off your track, it's a struggle. It's really hard, but once you get on it, it's easy. And I think it's so
Right.
interesting that you said that that you said this at 3 years old, because I was
Hmm.
just talking to someone about this the other day. When we're children, we are so much more connected with God because life
Yep.
hasn't gotten in the way yet to teach us
Hmm.
not to be. I remember, my younger cousin, when he was a little toddler, he described his grandfather who had been dead since before he was born because he had been talking to him at
Hmm.
night. And I think that these conversations are very, very real, because when we're younger, we're more connected to spirit. And so
Absolutely.
your grandmother, she kept you on that path, and she made sure to remind you all the time. And I just think that's
Yep.
wonderful.
Absolutely. She never let me forget. I know a philosopher, he always says that a child will tell you or show you what their purpose is by the time they turn 7 years old, but it's up to the
Mhm.
parent or whoever's fostering them to make that manifest.
So I've seen your video about how you described that you were inspired by something in the Bible that said like making men, making men. Can
Hmm.
you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. So the scripture says, let us make man. So of course, with me looking at that scripture, I definitely feel like, in my opinion, that not necessarily saying God said he need assistance with making men, but that's what I believe I could do. I'm just like, well, it does say, let us make man. So how about we all, put our foot in the pot and try to help God, make the men of our community. I definitely believe God works through people. So I definitely feel like, that was my calling, to start helping God make men. And that's what I believe I'm here to do. That's what that scripture says. It says, let us make man. So I'm just like, well, I'm a part of that, us too. So let us all do it. And let us all make men in our communities.
Do you have any kind of I'm sure every single boy that you work with is your favorite on some level, but do you have any favorite
Hmm.
stories of people who've come into the young men who have come into your life that you've been able to help?
Absolutely. I won't say them by name because some of their stories are very delicate. But I'll tell one of their stories. He's 16 years old. He has three children.
Wow.
And yeah, he has three children, but their life stories are so complex. Oh my goodness. It takes time to really dig into what goes on in their lives because people don't know these stories. Like these are like everyday stories from these children, and we'll see, maybe them on the news, getting into trouble and stuff like that, but we really never know what's going on in their lives. But he's doing a whole lot better now, and of course I have to do some different teaching with him because obviously you have children. I'm just like the day I found out, I was like, oh my goodness. And he had his first child at 14. So
Wow.
these are stories. I remember one kid, he got in my car for the first time. My truck, he got in my truck for the first time, and he gets in the car and he looks at my dashboard and he was like, man, your truck's on full. He's like, I ain't never seen that before. He was like, I ain't never seen the car on full. And I was like, golly, it makes you think to be grateful for a lot of stuff. Even some of them hadn't even been to like just the regular restaurants around town. Like they'd never been to Waffle House or Chick-fil-A or nothing. It was just like, well, my mom always told me to go make some bologna sandwich and some noodles or something like that. Just I would get into the stories, but I really ain't trying to get emotional right now. But they really have some interesting stories. Yeah, they have some stories. I really don't have a favorite story to get into because
Mhm.
just seeing their progress to where they've come, is a great thing. But backtracking to think about that stuff, man. I got kids that have been molested, etc. I mean, it's a lot to dig into.
Well, and I mean, you're taking it on and you're showing them a way that, like, no, I can't imagine they would have had any other role models probably in their lives to show them this path if you hadn't started this program, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's to listen to some of the boys, they'll tell you themselves, they'll be like, Mr. King, he saved me. If it wasn't for me coming here, I had to go to court for some of them, etc. On their behalf, trying to just beg the judge, please don't let him go to jail. I believe I can help him out, etc., etc. So I have kids binded to me by law. They can't even go anywhere because I have to help them, So these are, they have stories, but yeah, definitely they'll tell you themselves, they're just like, I'm grateful to be here because if it wasn't for him, I'd be somewhere else.
Well, and now you've gone from in a couple of years doing an oil change at your house to
Hmm.
literally buying a school.
Yes,
Literally buying a
absolutely.
school. So, guys,
Hmm.
I just want to do a quick pause to say that if you're enjoying this conversation so far, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to help donate to King Randall, I have all the information for how you can help donate in the description below. And I would ask in lieu of any super chats today, I don't want you guys sending in super chats. I want you donating directly to his project. We don't need YouTube to take any cut out of this. I want
Right.
that's where I want the money going for today. So that's what I would ask. So tell us about what you. This is a legit school that you
Hmm.
bought. Like, tell us about this.
Absolutely. Well, so originally we were looking at another building, and I'm retweeting the live again. But
Okay.
so yeah, I was looking at this one building here in Albany. It wasn't a school, but it was a nice sized building. I was like, well, we probably could turn this into a school, and the price was a little bit out of reach, but I felt like we could still do it. But then, of course, looking at the repairs that needed to be made, etc., it was starting to become unrealistic for us. So I kind of canceled on that building, and that's the building that people saw in our one of our videos when we were saying we had to raise so much money by December for it. Um, so I looked at that building and I canceled on it. So I was like, man, I gotta find another building for the kids, man. I was just like, and we were so set on that building. We had been, looking at it for months. We'd been inside of it, done videos, everything, but God had a ram in the bush. So I called our school superintendent and I was like, hey, does the school system have like any buildings that, could possibly be for sale or something? And he was like, well, we have 3 buildings up for demolition. And I was like, really? And he was like, would you like to go tour one of them? I was like, yeah. So I went and toured the one on the east side of town where I serve the most children. It's over by the projects. And I looked at it. It's in great condition. I walked through there And it looks great. The foundation's awesome. I mean, you can tell they kept it up. They just stopped using it 2 years ago. And my mom's just like, why are y'all tearing this down? This makes no sense. But so I was just like, well, I'd like to, get this location or whatever. So of course, we had to do a lot of negotiating, et cetera, et cetera. And we were able to make it happen. But this particular school has an interesting story behind it. So when I was in the fourth grade, I won my school spelling bee. And when I won my school spelling bee, of course, you have to go to another location to do your county spelling bee because you have to go through different stages. So I went to the county spelling bee at this school, and I spelled ratio wrong, and I lost. At that time, I had never heard the word ratio. I promise I had never heard it, and I was very good at spelling. And I was like, ratio. I was like, what is that? So I said I didn't know what to say, so I was just like RASIO. I don't know. And of course, I got it wrong, but I was very upset. I was living. I was a sore loser at the time, so I hated that building. Never wanted to see it again. I hated it, and here we are now. I have the keys to it, so you know, I'm just like sweet victory, boy. Revenge is great. So that was my little revenge. And I made sure the day of I got on that stage and I spelled ratio right just for me. So
You
yeah, just
rewrite
for me.
history.
Yeah, rewrite history. So one of my Twitter followers was like, "Well, you should go get you like a spelling bee plaque." It was so funny, but that was just a little story about that school building. But yeah, God had a ram in the bush for us. It's 36,000 square feet. 25 classrooms, sits on 11 acres of land, plenty of space to develop, expand, etc. And it's on that side of town where the children need us the most. So I'm definitely excited to go ahead and get in there and start working and get that school open for our boys.
What are your plans for the school?
Absolutely. So, well, of course, it'll be called the Life Preparatory School for Boys. We do want to make sure we're still teaching the skill trades, also teaching academics, but also we'll be teaching the science of manhood, the science of family, how to take care of your women and children, how to survive in the wilderness, firearms training, also doing different sports other than basketball and football. We'll do lacrosse, professional billiards, professional ping pong. We also have a speed skater. So we want to get them into speed skating, getting them into different sports, to understand that there's money to be made everywhere. We also want to get them some flying hours. We're going to invest in a flight simulator. They could get actual professional hours from a flight simulator for those kids who may want to get started on flying, become a pilot one day. But of course, as time goes by, we'll develop more and more and more and add things on to the school so that way the children can literally get in any area they like. And of course, we want to prep those children who do want to go to college. We want to prep those children who want to get into politics. We want to prep those children who want to get into painting, trucking, all of that. Also, we'll be growing our own food. At a farm, they offered us 4 acres of their land to be able to farm our own food out there. So we're going to make sure we're growing food, feeding their families, and also feeding our community with the food that they'll be growing. So we have a lot of little ideas we'll be, putting in place at the school. But that's kind of an idea of how the school, will be ran.
And would it be a boarding school? They be living there?
It'll be a boarding school. The biggest thing for me and how I'm able to change the boys the most is taking them away from their environments. A lot of them benefit with taking them away from their environments. They need to be away from the peer pressure, be away from critics, maybe in your family, etc. And you're able to go and be yourself somewhere else and actually learn what it is that you need to know to survive.
Oh, hang on. I had a question and I lost it. Oh, how many boys are in your program now, and do you anticipate expanding it?
I have about 40 to 60 boys all together in the program. I usually board about 7 boys at a time at my home, obviously, because I can't hold too many in here. And I can't monitor everybody. So I have about 7 to 10 boys I keep at home, but I have about 40 to 60 boys in the program all together. But of course, I have to get with the fire marshal to see how many boys exactly will be able to take boarding at our school. And of course, we'll see how many max we can have there because of course, the children who won't be able to attend the school, they'll also be able to come after school, and come do the different workshops and activities with the other boys. So every child won't be attending the school, but the school will still be touching them. Absolutely. But we definitely plan to expand within a few years. We want to focus on our area first and kind of get, the young men, kind of get a grip on the young men in our community. So that way, we're not kind of forgetting the boys where we are. So after we, kind of open more than one location where we are, we want to probably expand to the Columbus, Georgia area where the crime rate is really high amongst young men there. The Valdosta, Georgia area, the Macon, Georgia area. These are areas maybe about an hour and a half away, in different directions, from our Albany location. And of course, we'll plan to expand to Florida, et cetera. Then we'll, branch it out like that. But of course, we want to make sure we're focusing on our local area first because this is my first main concern.
Amazing, amazing. Well, guys, again, please, if you're enjoying these efforts, please make sure you make a donation to support this. I just think this is awesome. Now, I told you guys I don't want any super chats today because I want you making all the donations that you can without going through the evil YouTube. But I do have some questions from my locals community. Do you mind if we take some questions?
Absolutely, let's do it.
All right, let's see. Paul wants to know, are you at all worried about that the economic agenda of the current Democrat Party will adversely affect Black families like the war on poverty started by the LBJ administration did?
Well, for the most part, the biggest thing that I teach in our program is doing for self. And I believe if we stay behind each other and utilize teamwork, kind of like other cultures and communities do, we won't necessarily have to worry about that. And I'm honestly, beating the stereotypes right now just by purchasing the school, because a lot of people have said, you're young, Black, and in America, you can't do anything because of the establishment. So I'm here to be able to show my boys that you can go and do something regardless of our poverty level, because our poverty level here is very high. Our household income is $20,000 here, but it's that significantly inflated because we do have wealthy people that live here who run the different plants and stuff like that. But those people are leaving and our household income is actually still dropping. You don't even know the everyday adult here that has like $500 just in an emergency fund. Those are little issues that we deal with where we live, but we grew up here, and I'm showing the boys that we can still get out there and make it happen as long as you have the drive to make it happen. One of our biggest best-selling shirts says "Big Boy Faith." So that's what we believe in, regardless of anybody's agenda. We don't care about it. We're just gonna get out there and make it happen for ourselves. Of course, we want to pay attention to politics, but we're not gonna let that stop us. Nobody's agenda is gonna stop us as long as God has us on His side.
Well, and that's what I think is so important about teaching everyone personal responsibility and personal
Mm-hmm.
empowerment, because politics is such a show. And
Right. Absolutely.
it doesn't make its way into like average everyday people's lives in the way that people think that they do. And all of a sudden you
Mm-hmm.
have I'm so concerned about people teaching, especially young Black men and women, that they are victims and oppressed and they will never be anything. That really concerns me, because if you get this mentality in their head, they're not going to take the chances. They're not going to go for it like you've done for with this school.
Right, absolutely. My biggest thing is just showing them possible. And of course, they never get to see possible in their lives. So for me to come and show them that, I have my own house, I have my own cars, etc. A lot, my little brother has watched me, be broke trying to run this program. I had to learn how to cut hair. I learned how to fix some cars. I learned how to paint some people's houses. And I became a neighborhood handyman and made it happen and paid my bills and was able to feed the boys like that. I made it happen, from scratch, so we can do this. And they can see it with their own eyes that we could do it. And if people in other countries, especially Africans in other countries, and well, just anybody, immigrants or anything, look at us and like, how are you broke in America? How are you not surviving in America? And for them to be able to come over and come and be a millionaire within months, just from doing work, I definitely believe we could do the same thing. I don't see anything, that stopping us from doing that besides mindset. I definitely believe if our mindsets would change, and helping each other, because I believe, even with us complaining about the school system, complaining about government systems, et cetera, complaining about the medical industry, there's racism in the hospitals. We'll create your own hospitals. There's racism and systemic racism in the schools. We'll create your own schools. There's racism in the banking industry. They won't give Black people loans. Okay, we'll get and start your own bank. Like, these are things that I keep talking about. I'm just like, why can't we just go and do it for ourselves? I'm not asking the same racist establishment to go keep doing something for me if I believe they're racist. If I believe they're racist, I don't want anything from them. I'm just gonna go do my own stuff, So that's what I believe. But if you're gonna say somebody's racist and then fix your mouth to ask them for something, that makes no sense to me. I don't get it.
I'm completely with you. Completely with you. Okay, let's see. Top Hunter 85 asks, how can we support him and how can we support the school? Does he have a scholarship program that needs funding? I'll let you answer that.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be beginning a scholarship program for our children who do want to attend college. And also, we'll be doing a scholarship program for those kids who want to get into the skilled trades. For those things that I can't teach, we'll be sending them to different skilled trades schools for them to be able to get their hands dirty. So we will be starting a scholarship fund. But right now, we're kind of focused directly on the renovating of the school. We actually have to get them in the school before we even start thinking about teaching them. So we definitely have to get the school ready first, of course, get the right accreditation. But you can support us at thexforboys.org. And there you can see all of our pictures. You can see where to donate. You can see our old videos about us, where we came from, etc. So you could definitely see on there, thexforboys.org, how to support. And of course, if you want to follow me on social media, I'm at New Emerging King on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can just type in at New Emerging King and I'll pop up.
Yeah, and guys, just a reminder, I do have all of this information in the description below, so you can just go and click and find it. Now, Francis in the chat wants to know, do you have an email list that people can subscribe to?
Absolutely. You can just go on the Extra Boys website and tap join us. And then you can just go in there, type your email in and make sure you verify your email and you'll be on the email list.
Excellent, excellent. Justice wants to know, what is the greatest individual problem or struggle you have ever experienced?
I definitely, well, for me or for like the organization, I'll just do both. Okay,
Let's do that.
well, for me, definitely people, claiming that I'm too young and things like that, or trying to chastise what I'm trying to teach because of my age. But I don't really let that stop me. But for the most part, it does kind of get annoying because people will just immediately assume I don't know anything or immediately assume I'm not smart, because I haven't experienced enough, etc. But I'm just like, wisdom has no age. I know 60-year-olds that are ignorant, and then I know 5-year-olds that are very intelligent, but you have to put on the cap of wanting to learn something from everybody. But with the organization and boys in particular, I definitely think our two biggest issues are anger management and literacy. Our boys do not know how to control their anger at all. And I definitely feel like them not knowing how to read is the second biggest issue in our community.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. Though, so they don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to control their anger. How do you
Mm-hmm.
help them with that?
Again, them being around a man, and showing them how to redirect their anger. Plus, again, teaching the boys how to police each other. They don't allow each other to, get too angry, or they don't allow each other to get to a point where they want to fight, etc. Plus, I try to make sure I create a chaotic environment for them sometimes, because it teaches them how to deal with chaos. So if you've never been in a chaotic environment before, and the first time you get into chaos is, oh my God, let me explode in panic, or he stepped on my shoe, or something like that. Plus, a lot of them being raised by their moms, etc., who do all the nagging and lots of talking, no type of cap when you get mad, etc. Like, it's just a lot dealing with the anger, but it's that takes therapy. And I do believe, all boys need mandatory therapy. That'll be at our school as well. Every child will do therapy, every last one. I definitely feel like that's important, because we have to break down and get to these issues. Plus, looking at what the kids go through, man, I'd be angry too. Just their lifestyles, they have to live, and having to fend for themselves, and having to help mom, pay the bills, and, not having anywhere to use the bathroom. I mean, you get angry, you get angry. So the first time somebody does step on your shoe or bump into you wrong and you shoot them, it wasn't necessarily that made you mad. It's just all of this stuff combined has made you mad. So it's just a lot, to have to deal with. But we deal with it, and we're trying to make changes with it. But definitely anger management, huge issue. But we have a variety of ways, we try to help the children with their anger.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it seems too like, I mean, you're showing these young men like a new way, a new direction, and maybe even giving some of them a purpose or something to
Mm-hmm.
do with their lives that they didn't have before. And I think that that can go a long way in terms of providing direction and helping with anger. Because I think like anger sometimes it's like it's comes from a lack of contribution and service. And I think
Mm-hmm.
when you're living in a mindset of service and gratitude, it makes it really difficult to be angry all the time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you definitely live around, a lot of happiness, gratefulness, also just the people you're around could make you feel better regardless of your circumstance. So I definitely feel like that's huge, of huge importance in our communities. We definitely have to make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that can help you, surrounding yourself with people that have better attitudes, surrounding yourself with people that want to be in a better place, and not just those people who are constantly angry, constantly upset, etc. So we definitely have to make sure we're fostering the environments for our children as well, because if we have them in the wrong environments, no matter what you're teaching them, their environment is going to play a big part on their emotions and their attitudes.
Absolutely. Well, Joshua in the chat says your organization sounds awesome. Keep doing you and pushing towards a better future. And Joshua, I want to encourage you, make a donation to King Randall as well. All the information is in the description below. So, what is the biggest lesson that you have learned building this program over the last couple of years?
Always keep learning. Definitely don't limit yourself in what you think could happen. And right now I've broken so many barriers, for myself. I just kind of live and not worry about anything. I try not to get angry. And well, I really don't get angry for the most part. I really don't. The only person that, successful at making me mad is probably like my grandma. That's about it. But I definitely heard this quote from this older guy, which is why I don't get frustrated a lot. He asked me, if I had $100 and someone stole 10 of my dollars, would I lose the rest of my money trying to get that $10 back? And I was like, no. So he was like, why would you allow one moment, one person, one circumstance, one obstacle to destroy everything else you got going on because you're trying to get that one little thing back? Just let it go and keep moving. So I definitely decided to just keep my $90 and keep moving. Things are going to happen. Things, won't go as planned all the time, but, you have to keep moving. And I have children that are, looking at me all the time, and they're counting on me. So I don't have time to, necessarily worry about the bad things that happen to me or bad things that happen in the organization, etc. I just have to keep pushing and keep it moving. So I definitely think one of the biggest lessons I learned is just keep moving and keep striving. And patience is a virtue. Gotta be patient. So those are the, small lessons that I learned. And of course, and I'm still learning as time goes. I'm only 21. So I'm definitely not a full grown adult yet. I don't believe you're an adult till you turn 25. So I definitely still seek counsel, from my circle of elders that I have, so just learning lessons as time goes by. But the biggest lessons right now is just patience, and knowing everything is going to happen if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
I love it. I love it. Arn in Locals wants to know, how does he plan to attract students and supporters for his school?
Absolutely. Well, the students, I had children that have found my house, come knocking on the door trying to join the program. Getting the students is not an issue at all. I have kids on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, kids messaging, asking how can they get in the program. Gang members are like asking how can they join the Expo Boys. That's not an issue at all. And of course, getting people to support is really easy because you don't really see this anywhere. I've yet to see, somebody else doing what we're doing on a large scale, and I definitely look for people to partner with. But as far as, how dedicated I've been to it and the consistency, people just don't see it all the time, which is why people support it so much. People support us from everywhere. We have followers in all 50 states, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, Australia, and our following just grows every day. People are following us from everywhere because they're just like, we won't see this, all the time. So I definitely think, the followership is going to grow and the support is going to grow as long as we keep doing the work and keep coming up with new innovative ideas on how to help our children.
So James also has kind of a similar question in terms of like, are you relying on donations for the school, or is it angel investors, or anything you can share there?
Absolutely. So of course we do have donors, people that donate to the school for the most part. We do have people who will be giving yearly endowments to the school to make sure we're able to keep the school up, have working capital and things like that. The vice president of AutoZone is one of our biggest partners. Wow. He's found out about us and he's behind us 100%. So he's definitely one of our biggest financial backers. Of course, Trent Brown from the New England Patriots. He's a big supporter of ours as well. Kodak Black. He's just become a big fan of ours after talking to the boys on Zoom. So we do have a lot of financial backing, but of course we will be applying for different grants and things like that for our school just to be able to make the school better. We do have to make sure the school stays up to date. Also developing the curriculum and even adding things for the students who want to do other things that I may not be offering. I feel like I'm offering as much as possible, but I may have kids that want to go do something else, so I just want to make sure I have every little area covered for the students, so that way they can know that they have an outlet to go anywhere, in the school. But definitely donors, of course, and we have people financially backing us, absolutely. Plus we'll be applying for a few grants, of course.
Okay. Dick in the chat wants to know, what are the demographics of the kids that you're serving?
Absolutely. So Albany, Georgia's about 80% black people. We're in a majority black city. You don't see it often, but it's 80% black people here. So of course, most of the students are black. I have served some white children, Chinese, Hispanic children in the program that have come from the group homes and things like that. But for the most part, the children are mostly black, just because we live in a majority black town. But I do serve children of all races. Yes.
Okay, excellent. And has COVID impacted your work at all?
COVID was the reason I started taking the children into my home and having them come stay with me, because when COVID happened, I had to put everything on pause. But parents were asking, can you please do something, in regards to helping the children? And I was just like, well, they're gonna have to come live at my house, because I don't necessarily know. At that time, it was fresh, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on with this. So until they find out more information, they're gonna have to come live at my house. So luckily, nobody got COVID or anything like that. We kind of just kept it normal and kept it moving.
Awesome. Now, where do you see all of this going in 10, 15, 20 years, if you were to have a long view of it?
Well, I do say, for people who think I'm awesome at my age, I always say, wait till my boys turn 21. They're going to be unstoppable. So I definitely see new politicians, new lawyers, new judges, new pilots, new police officers, you name it, in our communities benefiting. I can't say where I see the school going in 5 to 10 years, because everything with us happens so fast, and the goals that I have for the school always get passed within like 2 or 3 months, so the sky ain't even the limit anymore. It's almost the universe for us, because everything we want to happen always happens before we even need it to. So I don't even have just a where it's going to be in 5 years. I have no clue. We could have still be on this school building and, expanding on this one. We could have 10 more campuses in 5 years. So I don't know, but I definitely, like I said, I want to see it grow. I want to be able to take more students. The biggest thing for me is, one of my goals is to take every boy in our city and have them come through the program. Literally, I want every boy, that's in school to be able to come through our school, because I definitely feel like that's needed. But that's one of my biggest goals. But yeah, definitely in 5 to 10 years, man, you will see, so many young men in our community changing, our lifestyle. So I definitely want to see our household income start to rise. I want to start, seeing business come to Albany, even with us starting our own businesses. Albany is a nice size city. There's no reason we don't have skyscrapers or anything like that, but nobody wants to come to our town because the household income so low and the crime so high. So I definitely want to make sure, we attract big business, put our young men in the positions of power, such as commission and mayor, et cetera. We want to make sure our young men are running our community and making sure they're making it better. So that's what I see, in 5 to 10 years, just us making our community better.
Excellent. Let me see. I just had a question in the chat. Gretchen wants to know, who were your mentors?
Well, my mentors, nobody really know them. But one of my mentors, his name is Terrence Fowler. Another mentor of mine is Travis Cochran. Another mentor of mine is D'Antonio Wingfield. He used to play for the Portland Trail Blazers way back when. Who else? Those are my main people I give a call to, when I need some guidance. But of course, I do have people, on the team who, have experience in the education field, et cetera, because of course I don't know everything there is to know about a school or, opening one at that. So I do have people on the team, but I do have people that mentor me, but they're not anybody known. So nobody knows them like that.
What are some of the lessons that you've learned from your mentors?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely that patience thing. And of course, how to handle myself, on social media and things like that, because I used to be a hothead. because I used to didn't like when people would try to say things about me and stuff. So of course I always had to respond and things like that. But it's kind of now I don't really respond to anybody in regards to having any negative press. Of course, I went on Roland Martin's show 2 days ago, but I only went on there because he'd been bothering me for a few months, and I was just like, "Oh, fine, I'll go on." But that was only for other people to find out, what I've been doing here in the city of Albany. But just picking my battles. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned from my mentors. Just making sure I'm fighting the right battles, and being in the fight that I need to be in.
I could learn that lesson myself sometimes too. I'm a little bit of a hothead on social media. I don't mind
Yeah,
saying.
absolutely. So I kind of just quiet down now. I don't even respond to people anymore.
It's you are doing it the smart way, my friend. Well, so I want to ask you this, and I had this question earlier, and it kind of flew
Hmm.
out of my head. But you mentioned that you read a lot of books with the boys. What
Hmm.
what what types of books do you guys read?
The first book we ever started reading in our book club was Letters to a Young Brother by Hill Harper. That book covers every little area for a young teenage boy in regards to sex, not having your parents home, peer pressure, drugs, you name it. It covers every little area for a teenage boy. And I think that book needs to be read to every teenage boy. It has, weekly lessons for them, etc. It's beautiful. But right now we're about to start Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington to kind of get them, in the idea of we don't have to remain in that area, of mindset. We can move forward, with our thinking.
Mm-hmm. All right, all right. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start a program like what you did?
Absolutely. Well, I always tell people for the most part, please make sure you start off by trying to make somebody happy. Because a lot of people who do want to get into something, such as I'm doing, or not even just what I'm doing, just somebody who wants to do something in general. I always say you have to start off by wanting to, be help people. And it's not for everybody. Everybody's not gonna take, random children into their home or random juvenile offenders into their home. That's a little far-fetched for just the normal person. But for those people, I always say, man, if you want to go pick a kid to take to school every day, ask their parents, can you take them to school. You see a kid walking down the street or walking home every day, ask, can you take them home every day, go take them to get something to eat, go mentor them or something like that. And even like what I've been doing, if there's something how to do that you think kids should know how to do, make you a flyer, put it on Facebook, go to the churches. That's what I did, and I was like, here, I got an oil change workshop. I went to football practices and everything, and I just passed out flyers. I was like, here, I want to teach these kids how to, change oil, change brakes, etc. That's what I did. It wasn't, there's no, foolproof plan or anything. I just had the heart for it. You just gotta want to do it. So definitely, if you want to get into something like this, I definitely encourage you to, because all of our communities need something like this, to be able to teach the young men and even young women. There was this program where I live, that was for girls. It was called Queens Are Us, and they taught, etiquette and how to sit at the table and how to set a table, certain conversations you have and how to sit, just whatever things girls needed to know that grandma used to teach back in the day. I'm not, well versed on that. I'm just kind of well versed on what young men, should know. But yeah, just little things like that. I definitely feel like, you should just start. It doesn't have to be anything big, it doesn't have to be anything small. It could just be something. Go give that homeless person that finally give them $1 that you always tell them no every day. Just something to brighten somebody's day. Speak to everybody you see. That's one of my biggest rules that I learned in Marine Corps. Because you never know who you meet. I speak to everybody I see. I don't care who it is. Every person I look at, I speak to. Because you never know how you might brighten somebody's day, or however, that may have a chain reaction in your community. You never know what your energy may do for somebody else. So definitely for anybody that wants to start, something like I'm doing, just get up and do it, and as time goes on, the ideas will come. And that's what happened for me. I just simply said, I want to teach kids how to do skill trades. And then that happened. And then more ideas came, so that's kind of how that happened. But this is straight grassroots work. There's no, curriculum that I went by, no YouTube video I watched. I just had the idea and just made it happen.
You're inspired by God, my friend. I believe it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Aaron wants to know, do you need any book donations?
Absolutely. We take all book donations because sometimes I do have a library for the boys. So sometimes when I just have them read anything they like, we put it in the library and they just go and, read whatever they want. And of course, I always have them give me a little essay on it, of course, whenever they get finished reading.
I love it. I love it. Well,
Our mailing address is on the website as well.
excellent. And just as a reminder, guys, if you just joined, the website address is in the description below. And strongly encourage you guys to all donate to King Randall's work and give this conversation a thumbs up while you're there because I think he's an amazing guest. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you want the audience to know?
For the most part, I think we covered everything. And the questions, kind of were good too. So I was able to expound on everything. But of course, you just keep up with me on social media. I'm usually posting everything, that has to do with the school whenever we have progress. So yeah, just keep up with me and I'll definitely keep everybody up to date.
Absolutely. Well, I'll definitely be keeping up. Your posts, they bring such a smile to my eyes. You've just got this wonderful energy. Your young men in your program have a wonderful energy, and it's just you can't help but feel really good when you see the work that you're doing. So congratulations to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I definitely appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Well, I guess we're going to wrap up the stream for today. But again, I do just want to encourage everyone, please support what he's doing. If you can't donate financially, please share his work with everyone. It's really, really incredible. And we need more people like him in the world. So the next live stream I have planned is I've got a couple next week. Of course, I'm going to be back on Tuesday next week with Joshua for our weekly show that we missed this past week because he was traveling. But next week, I'm also going to have on someone from in like the atheist MAGA movement, essentially. So a little bit different than what we're doing today, but that's okay because we should be welcoming everyone who values freedom and liberty and doing good work. And that's really what I care about at the end of the day. So that's
Yep.
going to be next Wednesday at the same time. And we're going to have a little conversation from that perspective. But thank you guys for spending some time with us today. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Peace out.